Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with today, checking out a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today it comes at us from Thomas, short and sweet, Persephone, Prison Skin. No context, so let's dive into this. The band name sounds familiar, but I don't have any preconceived notions of what type of music they make, so let's go in and find out what they're bringing. Epilepsy warning right there. Fantastic job for the band putting that up front there. Oh, nice. They left it on for like 10 seconds too. Yeah, so, what is that? Is that a 9/8? The metric stuff is so good already. Oh, that transition. Yeah, we got the polyrhythmic thing in there with the cymbals on the triplets. Oh man, that left guitar sounded like a phaser. I'm really digging that tone. Interesting transition there. We got a squashing and stretching of the time. Oh. Yeah, time is no question to this band. They'll do what they want when they want, and time will follow along with them. Okay, where are we going? It's very mysterious. Elements of a journey, but forward momentum. Very meditative. I love these pensive lines over here. I love these alternating accents on the drum. Of course, it always came back to the snare every other beat. Okay. Okay. There's a power in these melodies here that was missing previously. Almost like a dominance. Clarity, assurance. And a unification that we haven't seen. We had multiple guitars running harmony. That's phenomenal. I think it's over. Yep. Wow. That's See, here's the thing. This band walks a very fine line, or at least this track walks a very fine line that I think is really important when you start discussing proggier metal like this. On the surface, a lot of this sounds very indulgent. There are a lot of time signature changes, a lot of tempo changes. There's just a ton of contrast even on the nuanced idea. If you listen to what the drums are doing or what the guitars are doing, um, it seems like every bar, every half of a bar, sometimes they're completely shifting up their timbre or tone or approach. I mean, if you listen to the guitars, they frequently shift between more legato tapping uh, and more staccato picking and palm muting, which is like super staccato. The drums will go from accenting every other beat to accenting off beats to accenting every seventh beat, and it's just like nothing ever stays the same. And this is usually, I don't know if I should call it a crutch, but it's a characteristic of modern day prog that is, some would say, overly focused on the nuances. How many time signatures can we have? How many tempos can we have? How many key changes can we have? And some people would argue that modern prog is missing the soul of the music, right? It's missing that connectivity. Um, I don't know that I'm fully in that camp, but I can appreciate where those people come from, and I see that argument enough in the comments, especially since we have checked out a lot of older prog rock and a lot of newer prog rock and prog metal. Um, it is an opinion I've seen a lot of, but I think this band walks the line very well. And it's a fine line to walk for sure. This music is overly indulgent, or we can just say indulgent if you want. It utilizes a lot of those elements the mathematical elements that a lot of prog metal modern utilizes with the time signature changes, the key changes, the tempo changes, trying to see how much of stuff they can fit into a track, and they certainly do fit a lot of stuff into this. There's enough riffs and ideas in this 7-minute track to probably build 3 or 4 tracks off of. But they make sure to pair it with emotional resonance as well. At least with this track. I can't speak for all of theirs, of course. I said the name sounds familiar. Yes, we've checked them out twice before. Really? The Majestic of Gaia. I know I copy paste stuff, but I feel like I made a typo there. And Consciousness. Oh, Consciousness Parts 1 and 2. Both of these are older. I don't know when these were. All right, YouTube, why can't you give me this information? I know you usually do. Anyways, the thumbnails are both much older. Oh, one of them at least, the newer one, was from 2020. So about 2.5 years ago. And the other one was prior to that even. Yeah, so it's been a long time. And that's probably why I don't remember much about the band and their sound. And I'm kind of mad because I really dig this. And I bet if I go back and listen to those reactions, I really dug it then too. And that's cool. I never thought about it. I'm documenting my musical journey. I can go see who I was and my reaction to stuff at any given point in time. For the stuff on the channel, of course. I don't do this for everything I listen to. Anyways, that's kind of blowing my mind though. If I do this for like a decade, I can go back and see who I was 10 years prior. That's crazy. Yeah, they walk this line exceptionally well. They have all this intricate aspects, but the emotion is there too, and I think I did a pretty good job of kind of laying down what they were aiming for, I think, in each section. But I do end up getting this really interesting story being told throughout this track, which I think is fascinating because usually the complex music for stuff like this gets in the way of my emotional read, and my analysis tends to be more technically analytical than theoretically analytical. But I think on this one, it's kind of going to be the inverse because I was trying to force myself to check out the emotional aspects because I was attaching myself to them rather early on. And most of the composition, the technical aspect, is kind of one note. They do some really cool stuff with chords and melody, but for the most part, a lot of it is very noodly, just kind of playing a lot of notes in series without pedal tones. It's just constant forward momentum of melody. And drums are just constantly playing with different accent patterns to disrupt their the drum flow, which again seems disruptive. I use the word disrupt on that, but it kind of doesn't if you're kind of taking it all in at the same time rather than trying to focus in on any one specific thing. So the story I get out of this though, the beginning is chaotic, and that could just be me being thrown into this, not knowing what's in store and having this flurry of sound thrust into my ears, but I really had no idea what was going on. It, like free falling. There were certainly elements of chaos throughout this section, these opening minutes, with the ever fluctuating drum pattern. Really difficult to find one at any given time. There's also a lot of polymetric ideas going on, which I pointed out. there's a triplet pattern that consists through a lot of this opening half of the track that pushes against whatever they're going for, which seems to jump between 4/4 and 9/8 and some sort of 7 pulse, and there's a 6 in there somewhere, which the 3 doesn't push against, it resides within, which was really nice when after all that polyrhythm, we actually had something that lined up and overlapped well. But yeah, just the first 2 minutes, it's a flurry of notes, flurry of phrasings. As far as rhythmic phrasing goes, it's a flurry of time signatures. It is just a chaotic, confusing, I don't want to say mess, because I think it all comes together in a way that accentuates and embellishes on what everyone is doing. Everybody's coming together to create this chaotic sound without actually being chaotic. This is not like Car Bomb or Dillinger Escape Plan, who create chaos out of chaotic elements. Everything in here is rather harmonious rhythmically and harmonically. It's just that the way that it's all crafted together, it's really difficult to see where things connect. But they're all very purposefully done so in a way that is beautiful and elegant. And it's that elegant chaos that I think really dictates the opening half of this track here. It's what makes it feel difficult to parse and to decode, but interesting enough that you want to see what's on the other side. It's not overwhelming. It's gorgeous in a way. You just don't quite get it. Yet, maybe. You see, something flipped in the midpoint of this track. I don't know I'm not going to say it's exact 50-minute, 3 minutes into this, or 50%, 3 minutes into this. Somewhere in the middle of the track, though, in the middle 20% or so, something happened. And where everything was kind of doing its own thing and creating these very complex consonant ideas that were implying chaos, they utilized some more simplistic ideas that more purposefully interlocked with the ideas around them to create something both palatable and beautiful, rather than chaotic and beautiful. And it was this unification of concept that really struck me as a large leap from where we were, but it was masterfully led into, and I'd even say that they alluded to these concepts moving into this middle section. It wasn't like we were chaotic and now we're not. It was we were chaotic, and we slowly removed some of those chaotic elements and replaced them with more orderly ideas until everything was an orderly idea, and you just never really picked up on the transition. I'd wager if I went back and listened to it, it would feel a lot more smoother than the way that it was, where I was just kind of glancing around, and when I decided to take everything in as a whole, I was like, oh, wait, this is very unified now. Kind of sneaking it in there. But it's this gradual move towards everything working together. And when we hit that point, the song takes all of that noodling that just feels chaotic for chaos sense sake. That's just complex because that's what prog metal does, and takes and subverts that idea and says, well, we're going to be complex, but we're going to tell you something about it. And everything works together in this gorgeous manner that absolutely sells this emotion of confidence, and then begins to lean into that until that confidence becomes mastery and dominance. And then we begin to get a guitar solo that becomes a guitar duet, that becomes a guitar trio. Triet? I don't know what we would call that. Anyways, 3 guitars all playing in tandem and harmonizing the same exact lick, if I remember correctly. Sometimes just a bit delayed to create this nice counterpoint idea going on, but usually coming back together into this unified sound that, at least to me, like I said, sonically, between the guitar tones, the harmonies they're created, the chords that they're alluding to, tells me about a dominance of something. There was conquest here. And so we go from something that feels chaotic and uncontrolled to something that feels refined and having mastery over. It's taking something that doesn't want to confine to anything and figuring it out. It's taking a puzzle, thousands of pieces loosely thrown across a table, some flipped upside down, and forming the picture out of it, solving the puzzle. I don't necessarily think the complexity and high skill of musicianship is necessary to tell this story, but I do think it elevates it. There is an attention to both note detail and harmonic detail that allow the speed and complexity of the music to showcase possibly the difficulty of this task, while also showing the complete mastery over it. A 4-piece puzzle is pretty simple to complete. A 1,000-piece puzzle, a little more difficult, but doable. But what about a 1,000,000-piece puzzle? 10,000,000-piece puzzle? The more moving parts there are, the more difficult or tedious or time-consuming the task is, leading to, at least through my very weak metaphor here, a type of difficulty. And so having the music be more difficult to play can allude to the difficulty of the to the solving of this puzzle. That's what I get out of the music anyways. This doesn't bring the vocals into question at all. I don't know that I necessarily have a read on them. We have harshes and we have cleans, and the cleans are gorgeous and the harshes are fine. I'm not a big harsh vocal fanboy, so fine is pretty big praise for me, I suppose. I don't know how they fit into the music. Almost everything that I've read here and my interpretation of the song itself is from the guitars, bass, piano. There's piano in here somewhere, and drums. I didn't really touch on the production, which is super clean, super clear. The instruments are dirty enough to have that metal impact, but the production itself, the EQing of everything is perfect in my ears. This is just exactly the type of clarity that I prefer. Being able to hear everything that's going on. Though I really do dig that phaser guitar tone we had at the beginning. That was so good. I didn't touch on any specific section, which, like I said, there's a lot going on here. If you want me to break down a specific verse, we're going to have to listen to it and pause it and talk about it and rewind it and listen to it and pause and talk about it. That's not the kind of channel this is. But it's so much is going on. I'm not going to be able to pick up on every little nuance like I would with a simpler track. So I think that pretty much wraps up my pre-lyrical analysis, is that everything in here has a purpose. Whether it be the use of dissonance, rhythmic dissonance, or constantly fluctuating compositional elements, or the overuse of technical performance, all of it feels like it has a place in telling this story. So the other half of the equation, what story do the lyrics tell? And the lyrics are highly profound. Our opening stanza is all about not knowing who you are anymore, or specifically from the narrator's perspective, not knowing who I am. anymore. Sitting in a trance, he says, my head collapsed by the magnitude of this feeling. Tears in my eyes, void in my heart. Huge, huge statements. Continues on though, and begins to break free from this, says, let you be. Close your eyes and dare to see what always was. The idea that it's not who you appear to be that defines you, but you must close off your external senses. We are humans, not robots. Turn off your external senses and feel who you are within. It is one's actions, opinions, and thoughts that define one, not what they look like. You are more than just who you appear to be. And this is completely solidified. A couple stanzas down says, confined by the walls I built, being consumed by this prison skin. Open your eyes, feel what you are inside. Not your face. You're not the name you've been given. Transcend your senses and be. It almost speaks to say to connect with your spirit, with your actual self, not the physical flesh cage you are held within. Defining oneself visually is not a definition of oneself at all. No different than dressing up a prison cell changes who you are. You've just made your cell look a little prettier than your neighbor's. And I really love this idea. The song culminates in this aspect at the end, says there is more that I can't see, I can't touch, but I can feel deeply, and I will break free. Leave the anger, open your heart, bloom outside this prison skin. And there is power in that. There is strength in those words. It makes me want to figure out who I am. And it absolutely follows somewhat the reading I had of the song. Chaos and confusion were how I were thrust into this track, and our opening stanza literally uses the word confused. I don't know who I am anymore. There is a misunderstanding of the concepts that are going on around you, and the music absolutely lends itself into that. By the end of the track, we are so comfortable with ourselves and have connected with who we are that we are now the one providing the advice. Leave your anger, open your heart, and bloom outside your prison skin. That is a complete dominance of the situation. You have complete mastery over it, that you are now able to be a tutor to others. This path of confusion, lack of understanding to mastery and dominance is exactly what I was talking about from the music. Like, yes. Oh, man. Yeah, I gotta listen to more of these. And yeah, I'm gonna laugh so hard if I go back to the old reactions and at the end of it, I'm like, yeah, I need to listen to more of these. Because that means I've done a disservice to myself 2.5 years later, and I have not followed through on that promise to myself. But yeah, just a beautiful song, both in intention, execution. I said both, but here's going to be three. And theme and message. Four. All four of these. Those are my thoughts on Persephone's prison skin. Let me know what your thoughts are, though. Did you enjoy this? Was there anything that stood out to you? Anything that I said that you think should have been expanded on, or anything that I didn't talk about, or maybe even misspoke about and you'd like to correct me on? Put that stuff down in the comments. Above the comments section is a description box. You'll find a link to Linktree in there. You can find ways to support the channel, a link to my music, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Go ahead and check that out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.